Hey everyone, just letting you know there may be some fire language within this podcast.
Just a heads up, this podcast may contain some language that may not be suitable for all ears.
You suck ass.
I wanted to compare.
Inconceivable!
Will you please act like you have more than a two-word vocabulary?
Is there air? You don't know!
And now, a yak.
Yak! Yeah!
Hey, don't touch that dial. You found secular yakking.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Amy.
After years,
No, many years of yakking at each other.
we're here to yak at you.
So sit back and enjoy the yakking.
And welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful holiday week.
Yeah, long week.
Yeah.
But now we're back and we will try and start getting our shows out about this time frame.
Yeah, we'll try and get them released by Monday.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
One of the reasons we're not on time on Wednesdays this week is because someone had a surgery.
Yeah, had to do a spinal surgery, so we're kind of off schedule. But I also see this as an opportunity to start at a new schedule and roll with that from now on.
Yep, we're going to try and record on Sunday nights.
Sunday nights, yeah, and
Yep.
release it, have it out there, Monday morning kind of
Yep,
thing?
that's the plan.
That sounds good to me. Let's get on with the show.
All right, I suppose you're just going to push me into it.
Yeah, let's go. Don't look at me like that.
All right. Well, let's talk about, it's winter,
It is
right? It's winter here,
here.
but it's summer somewhere else.
That would be the Southern Hemisphere.
Southern Hemisphere, yes, for those that believe in the Southern Hemisphere.
What do you mean believe in the Southern Hemisphere? People live in the Southern
I
Hemisphere.
mean, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Well, according to flat earthers,
They walk upside down.
yeah, or they don't. There's no Southern Hemisphere.
Or there's
They call it a flat plane.
so there's no Southern Hemisphere because it's a flat plane.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense and doesn't make sense, but okay, continue.
Okay, so we're going to dive into a story today that I have been following for a while.
Yeah,
Right.
a good while.
And we'll get into some of why I've been following it for a while later in the show.
Oh, that's important, I
Right.
think.
But I've kind of been into this flat earth thing lately. Like,
yeah.
really into the flat earth debunking.
I, however, find it very comical to watch
Yeah.
and
well,
learn about.
So we're going to do some psychology, some science, and a little bit of unexpected revelations today.
I think that's good. I like that.
Right. So let's talk about the flat earth phenomenon first.
Okay.
Right. So the idea of flat earth isn't new. It's been around for a very long time. Weirdly enough, there was a point in time where hardly anybody believed the world was flat.
Flat or round?
Flat.
Oh, didn't believe it was
Right,
flat?
so ever since Eratosthenes, I think it was Eratosthenes, did his experiment, educated people. His experiment is he had a well, and I think it was Eratosthenes that did this, but he was able to measure the angle of the sun and determine the radius of the Earth off of that,
right,
right? Because of the shadows on the solstice.
right.
Right. So ever since then, educated people have known it's round. Right, and no one else cared, so it didn't matter because round or flat,
You're still here.
if you're a farmer, who cares?
Right.
But if you're an educated person trying to do science and science at the time, natural sciences,
Right.
the Earth being round is important.
Of course.
Right? So for the longest time, no one cared whether the Earth was round or flat. Right, and then
Well, in all honesty, there are still many people out there who say, "Who gives a shit? We're living here, so it is what it is." And then you get, people who want to learn and know more.
right,
And then you get people who say it's this, even though I have nothing to back it up. I say it is this, or
right,
I saw on YouTube it's this, so it's this, and everybody has their own thing.
right. But recently,
Yeah.
namely in the past couple hundred years, weirdly enough, there has been this resurgence of flat Earth.
That's weird.
Right.
Uh-huh.
They believe we live on a flat plane. Now, they don't have a working model. They have models. None of them work.
Yes, because every time they try to prove them, they just can't.
Right.
Right.
So, they work off this map, which is it shows the flatness of it, right? Or they believe it shows the flatness, but it's way out of proportion.
Oh yeah, it's
Right.
not.
You
It's not to scale.
You can't take a sphere and flatten it out. It doesn't look right.
Right.
So but there's so many different versions of it. There's people who think we live on an infinite plane, right?
Okay.
Right. There's just everything out there forever.
Right. Gotcha.
Then there's people who believe that Antarctica is an ice wall.
Yeah, that
and it
big
holds
old,
everything in.
Yeah, the big old wall around the entire
And then there's a dome.
pizza. It's
Yeah.
just how I see it
Pizza.
as a round dirt pizza, which
Dirt pizza.
is not your
It's
thing.
not mine. That's
It's not
MC2.
your saying. Yeah,
That's
MC2. But yeah, and they literally think it's like, what is it, Game of Thrones, the ice wall kind of look.
Right. And then there's the dome or the firmament.
Same difference.
And weirdly enough, why this is important to our show
Okay, yeah, that
is
would make a point.
because a lot of flat earthers are also biblical literalists.
Yeah, anytime you watch Flat Earthers, at some point in time in their conversation, they bring out the whole
Almost
because
every time.
God did this.
Right.
And then you're like, bingo. I
Right.
mean, every time.
So we've got a flat plane
Right.
covered by a dome.
Right.
That is the firmament that separates the waters from the waters and all this other Genesis crap.
Weird. Yeah,
Right.
okay. Uh-huh.
So that's where we are with flat Earth.
Got it.
Now, they also believe that the sun moves in a circle over the plane,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So like a clock hand.
Right, yeah, that's
Right?
what I was thinking. And
The
it
sun
moves
move
around.
around in a circle.
Okay, got it.
Now, according to them, and most of them,
Uh-huh.
and this is previous to the final experiment we're going to talk about here in a minute,
Okay.
there was no way to have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica
Right.
during the summer.
Right. I do absolutely remember that. It will not work on
And
a
if
flat plane.
If there were 24-hour sun in Antarctica, it would only be in the north, and it would reverse direction.
Okay. Well, on a quick side note, I don't know if this goes with this or not, but for me, if you have a light on a flat plane, wouldn't you see it everywhere at all times?
You would see it at all times.
Okay, so I'm
So
not just
even
being weird.
There are those that believe the sun is like a spotlight,
Uh-huh.
right? And it only shines where it's shining.
But you would still see it from, even if it's not shining on you,
You would
if
still
you're
see
on
it
the other part of this flat plane, you would still see it shining
like a spotlight.
down on whatever it's shining
That's
on.
the
So
whole point of
you would still
spotlight.
see it no matter what.
Right. That's the whole point. Because
Which
back in
is
the
why-
days of actual spotlights, like the movie premieres, they would have the
Right.
spotlights.
You're
You
right.
could see the spotlights from miles away, even though it wasn't pointing directly at you.
Correct. And that's kind of where I don't understand why they keep sticking with this theory, because if that was the case, that we were on a flat plane, the planet was flat, we would never have darkness. You would at least have where it would be shadowy, but you could still see the light in the distance kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I
Okay.
completely agree with you on that. So we've described what flat Earth is and kind of what they believe.
Kind of
right?
what their
Right.
thought process is, yeah.
So let's talk about the final experiment,
Okay.
right? Actually, I'm jumping ahead.
Okay.
All right, so there is quite the bunch of content creators from Flat Earth,
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there's several out
right?
there.
It started with guys like Eric Dubay,
Uh-huh.
right? He's like the founder of the modern Flat Earth
Oh,
movement,
okay,
right?
gotcha. Yep. Uh-huh.
Started about 10 years ago.
Right.
And then there's others that came on board, like Flat Earth Dave,
Yeah,
Right.
I remember. Yeah, him.
Jeranism,
Uh-huh.
Austin Whitsitt, CC, Chris from Westchester,
Westchester County,
New York.
every single time.
Yep, CC.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
He
we've
makes me
watched quite a
laugh.
few.
He makes me laugh.
And they present captivating arguments, right? If you don't know what you're listening to, they might make sense.
Yeah,
But it's word salad. It's
Abs-
scientific jargon.
absolutely.
They throw things out like perspective and I just don't even know.
Well, and I do know that there are some flat earthers who are just misled
They
and
are.
really think that makes sense. I could totally go with that. And then you have other flat earthers like that Dave guy
Flat
who
Earth Dave.
he is totally bullshitting you
Well, he created
because it's
an app.
profitable.
He created an app
Mhm.
that will tell you where the sun is on the flat Earth based on your position in the time.
Correct. And I know, getting ahead, when they did the final experiment, that was used.
Yes,
They used that scenario.
and it didn't work.
MC Toon, I believe,
MC
was
Toon.
the one that did that, and it totally proved him wrong.
So yeah, that's a grift right there because he charges money for it.
Yeah,
And-
he's totally in
and
it for the money.
according to MC Toon, it's broken.
Oh,
It leaks information.
yeah, you want to stay the hell
Yeah.
away from it.
Yeah, don't don't download Flat Earth Dave's.
Anyways, continue on what you were
All right.
saying.
Anyway, so they use scientific sounding stuff,
Right.
right? And nice looking animations and all
Mhm.
these things. And they feel to an outsider that doesn't understand,
Right.
right? Or someone that's already gullible and ready to go for it.
Right.
It feels right.
Uh-huh.
Because what they do is they look at the observable, what they can see.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And they're like, we don't see a curve.
They don't look at it from a long point scientific point of view, because one thing I have noticed with flat earthers, it's like everything revolves around them, the sun literally,
Yeah.
or things like that, and they can't put themselves in a bigger perspective of how things work.
Right.
Not everything works with the way you see reality right here in front of you.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right. And that ties in with some of their other beliefs, like space denial, moon landing denial,
yes,
right?
yes.
Anti-science, a huge
Yes.
anti-science.
There's a
lot of
lot.
anti-vaxxers in that group too.
Oh yeah, I could totally see
Right.
that.
So that's the Flat Earth YouTube side, or YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. You know,
all
all
the
that stuff,
medias,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But on the other side, you have science educators, and like MC Toon, Simon Dan, Creaky Blinder.
Correct.
There's a whole bunch of others.
It's just popping in your head right now.
Yeah.
But right, and then the difference between the two groups is you got the flat earthers who say this, claim this, but they literally cannot ever prove what they're saying. And then you have the more scientific side of the community, and they're proving their shit time and time and time again.
They are
And-
constantly debunking everything the
Right.
Flat Earth puts out.
And then a flat earther will say, I don't know, they'll come up with something new, or you're full of crap, or you're paid for, so you're no longer one of
you're a
us flat
shill.
earthers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or their best argument is no.
That's an argument.
That's the best they can come up with is no.
I didn't know that.
That's they're like, that's not true.
Okay,
Like,
so
we
then
were
prove
watching-
yourself.
we were
That's my
watching-
point.
We were watching that Flat Earth debate the other night.
Oh
right?
yeah,
And the guy's entire argument was basically,
it really was. Or he would just start throwing like insults because he couldn't say anything else.
again. Yeah.
And this is the default constantly. They have nothing to say. And when they say that, no, your thing doesn't prove anything, then okay, fine. My
Right.
thing doesn't prove it. So then how about prove what you're saying?
Right.
Show me. Show me
why-
I'm wrong.
Which is why I love watching the YouTubers, right?
Mhm.
That's I like that information. It reminds me back in the days when I used to watch religious debates,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's almost the exact same
We
format.
watched those in person though. Those
Yeah,
were-
we watched those in
that was
person.
entertaining.
Well, I used to watch them online too.
Well, yeah, but we would see a lot in person. And
Yes.
now you don't have to. You
Right.
could just watch it online. But anyways, continue back with what you were
All
saying.
right. So that brings us to the final experiment,
Right.
which Pastor Will Duffy out of Colorado,
Yes.
he came up with this idea called the final experiment, to where he would fly 10 flat earthers.
Is that how many it was?
Yeah. He envisioned 10.
Oh, okay.
10 flat earthers and 10
Globies.
Globers.
Globers.
Yeah, I don't know.
I forget.
People who understand science.
yeah.
To Antarctica, the Union Glacier.
Paid for.
Two of them.
Well, I think
one
two
of each.
each.
One of each.
Oh, it was one of each for
right?
he paid for? Okay,
Right.
got it.
And they would be.
But he would fly 10 of each.
And they would be at 80 degrees south.
Right
To
at the
prove
South Pole.
That there is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica in December.
Right. And it was to prove that, yes, it's there. No, it's not there. Flat Earth, globals.
Right.
It was free for both sides to freely come, run their experiments, prove their points, yada, yada. And we all mostly know how that ended.
Well, we'll get to how
You would
that ended.
assume how
Right.
that ended.
So, to the run-up to this final experiment, the
Right.
flat earthers were going crazy.
Oh,
They were-
getting up
they
to
were-
the point.
They were changing their viewpoint.
Oh, yes.
Just as soon as it came out, so many of them was like, "Well, I never said you couldn't have 24-hour sunlight."
And yet we have video
We have
document
video
of them doing
documentation,
so. Yeah.
Or they were saying, "Well, it's going to be a reflection off the dome."
Yes.
And
Which don't even get me started on that.
not a reflection off the dome. We can tell
They were coming up with excuses to save themselves for the time when it came to
because they
actually
knew
get there.
it was going to happen.
Because
Or-
again, they know it's bullshit.
And the ones that couldn't come up with anything good were like, "It's going to be green screen. They're not going to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be pre-recorded up in
Uh-huh.
Alaska or something."
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So yeah, they came up with all these incredibly crazy ideas that held no water.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, that just seems not strong in your faith and what you believe. That's how I see it.
So the free one was offered to several different
Big name
Big
flat
names.
earthers
Flat Earth
and
Dave.
globers.
It was offered to Flat Earth Dave. He said no.
Yeah,
He doesn't like the cold.
That was his.
That was one of his reasons.
Is that
He doesn't like the cold. It was offered to a couple others. I can't remember their names.
Yeah.
And one said, I forgot who it was, but I'll have to look it up. But basically said that he wasn't going to go on the trip because Pastor Will Duffy was demonic.
Are you kidding?
That is what he said.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so it was offered to quite a few. The one that actually got it was Jaron. Jaron Campanello of Jaronism. Right? If you have listened to anything Flat Earth in the past 5 or 6 years, there was a documentary that came out. Jaron had tried an experiment many years ago where he would shine a light through 3 boards with holes in them across a lake. Okay. It was like 17 miles. I don't know the exact numbers, right?
Okay.
Right? And if the Earth is flat, you should be able to shine it directly through all 3 holes.
See the light all the way through. Right.
But when he did it, he had to have the guy on the other end
I remember
his light
that video.
way up above his head.
He kept telling him, lift it up higher, higher, and then he finally could see it. It's like, interesting.
And that was it.
And that was huge.
And he remained a flat earther after that.
Even so.
Right. So Jaronism got to go. Austin Whitsitt, who is a TikTok.
Oh.
I think it's TikTok. He does some YouTube, but mostly TikTok. But he does all these stupid short form videos where he asked a question or something, and then he goes off on how there's no way the Earth could be round, or we're not going to space, not going to the whole
you're
thing.
falling down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Right. And there were 2 others that went. I don't remember their names off the top of my head. Lisbeth.
I believe it's Lisbeth.
She's a much smaller YouTuber. I haven't seen any of her content. I might have seen some.
Yeah, she's a little less well known. I do remember that.
And then another flat earther, I don't even remember his name, but he was the camera guy.
Oh, okay,
right?
Gotcha.
But he was a flat earther. And then on the YouTube or the Glober side, you had MC Toon, Dave McKeegan, the Australian guy. I wrote it down somewhere.
He's terrible with names too. The Australian guy.
And then Pastor Will Duffy himself.
Right. He was a Glober,
Yeah.
But anyways, once they were there.
Yeah, the first thing they did, they got everything set up. They actually, on the way down, they went through Santiago. Right. And they did a bunch of experiments there. Like, if you're in the southern hemisphere, the sun should rise in the north. Right. But it doesn't. It rises in the south like it should.
And what was the name of the place they were at just before heading to Antarctica? It wasn't. I was trying to.
Oh no, not in Santiago.
Yeah, it wasn't Santiago. It was. Oh crap! What was the name of the town?
I can't remember.
It was in Chile.
It was in Chile. Anyway, so they did a bunch of experiments there. Right. Yeah. Which most of those confirmed what the Glovers predicted. Right. And then they finally got with ALE, which is Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions. Yeah. I remember that for some reason. I can't remember what city they were in. Right. And they flew down. It was like a 4.5-hour flight. Which is nuts.
Which they filmed the whole.
They filmed the whole thing. Yeah. They got live film and.
The what time-lapse thing?
Yeah, time-lapse, that's the number.
You really couldn't remember that either?
No.
Anyways, but yeah, I remember even when they were landing and touching down in Antarctica, they filmed that entire process.
So, and they get there, they get shipped out to this little camp that was made for them. Yeah. Right? And they set up all these cameras and everything. They started live streaming.
Yeah. Right? And they live streamed they recorded the entire time. They did live streaming. They had like 10 different cameras from all different kinds of sides. Everyone had experiments going, so you miss nothing with all those cameras. But yet the flat earthers still had a meltdown with it.
Well, Jaron, he was the first flat earther to come on the live stream.
Because everyone, once they set up, they all got to come up in front of the camera and speak.
So Jaron admitted he was wrong about the midnight sun, which was incredibly important to his beliefs, right? And he said he didn't know where to go from there, really.
And in retrospect, also, when they made these live stream speeches, it was right at the midnight sun time frame. So it was like right at like it was midnight, 2 o'clock, something like they did like from there to there. I remember that was real big. So there was like no denying whatsoever there should not be a sun up in the sky right now. Right. And then they all made their each individual
and the
speeches.
sun was south of them.
Yes, it was.
That was a big
and
deal.
it was extremely bright to the point where you have to wear special polarized glasses, which also, if you ever use polarized and a phone or screen, makes it really
you can't
hard
see.
to see your screens. But anyways.
And then next was Austin Whitsitt.
Mm-hmm.
He admitted that it was a 24-hour sun, right?
Uh-huh.
But he didn't know what to do with that either. He would have to relook at his belief system after that as well.
Oh.
But it doesn't. He felt that it didn't prove the Earth was spherical.
I do remember them saying that they admit that there is a 24, but they still don't concede to the globe.
Right.
I do remember that.
And then obviously the Globers got on, and they were basically saying, "Yeah, we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
This is great. This is great. Awesome places.
This is
which
totally
is
cool.
truly beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, especially coming from someone who's been there.
Which we'll talk about.
4 years.
We'll talk about.
Go.
Part of why we didn't have a show for 4 years.
Oh, don't even get started
Or
on
we
that.
tried.
Oh, that was awful.
Right. So, and this goes into a deeper issue, not just with flat Earth, but with conspiracy theories in general.
That, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it comes from a sense of, it gives these folks a sense of community, a sense where they belong, because they don't necessarily understand the real science.
Right.
Right. So they look for someone who does. And this is like a religious experience in the same way. Right.
Now we're talking about flat earthers?
We're talking about flat
That's
earthers.
what I thought.
Right?
Okay.
In the same way that religion brings people together.
Yes,
these
absolutely.
Conspiracy theories bring them together.
Right.
So there's an entire group over in Western Washington that are the Sasquatch believers, and they have like regular meetings.
Wholeheartedly say that there's Sasquatch.
Right.
But I guess everybody has their own.
Right.
So,
and to me, that's no different than going to church on Sunday.
right. You're finding like-minded people to hang out with, because honestly, that's more of what church really
But
is.
the problem is they don't get any outside information, so it becomes this huge echo chamber, and they just build and build and build.
They're
until
just feeding off themselves.
They are so ingrained into this. There's nothing short of going and seeing it themselves that will make them believe it. And that's why.
And then some.
And then some don't. Right.
Yeah.
Even now, after this video,
the whole experiment was completed.
There are still flat earthers out there saying it was fake,
which they proved could not be.
Right. They actually had a glitch.
Drone. They had that drone too.
The glitch, the green screen glitch actually proved it wasn't green screen.
Oh, and now see, I thought that they would think that
right.
They would make them think it was more of a green screen.
During the live stream, Will Duffy does a lot of live streams, and he has a green screen behind him most of the time.
Right.
Right, and he has his Final Experiment logo and stuff on there.
Right.
And so when they were doing the live stream, one of the guys got up and he had a green patch on his jacket.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and it came up and it had the TFE logo on it. Right, and that right there proved they could not have been in front of a green screen.
Okay.
Because if they were in front of the green screen, it wouldn't have shown TFE on his patch.
It would have just gone through, right?
It would have shown the background.
Right, that's what I was saying. It would just go through him and show whatever was on the green screen.
But since it showed the TFE logo, that proved there was no green screen
and I
behind
remember when that happened, I said, oh, the flat earthers are going to have a heyday with this. I was thinking that they would say, oh, this disproves it. It's all fake.
Oddly
they
enough,
started with that, though, didn't
Flat Earth, that was the first thing they came out with.
Okay.
And weirdly enough, Flat Earth Dave
proved it wrong.
Said no. And for the same reasons I gave. He said, if it were true, then you would have seen the background, not the foreground.
And that is big kudos to him for at least doing that. So
he still thinks the whole thing was
of course.
rigged and faked.
But at least he did that.
There were actually people thought we were going to have a fake sun.
Oh, yeah. Like this huge, like millions of dollars worth of theater setup and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. They were thinking that was happening. And that's still what's going on. They're still trying to process what happened.
Right.
Because it just happened, a week and a half ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Mid-December.
Yeah, around the
15th.
The late teens, yeah.
And they're still processing. In fact, they have like terabytes of video to go through.
Yeah.
They haven't even released all the video.
Yeah. And I do know one of the ways that they proved that they were not in a studio or not in a green screen, he had a drone and he got permission to fly his drone up. What was it, like?
It's about a mile.
1,500. No, I was going to say it was like 5,000 feet. That's how high he was.
A mile. Yeah.
I remember him saying it was just shy of 5,000 feet. And there is the largest setup anywhere doesn't even go 5,000 feet to
there were
fake
people
something.
who said it was a soundstage with LED sphere.
Like IMAX kind of.
Yeah, like you said, the largest LED sphere in the world is in Vegas, which is only 300 feet.
Right, and they went just shy of 5,000. So a mile up almost to prove, and he shot all the scenery around and everything. I mean, and then I think when they were doing their speeches on the ground, he took a drone and went along the ground, like far off, to show there's no green screen behind him. I mean, they were trying to prove left and right to them, this is not faked in any way and form, and I'm going to show it to you, and yet they still are saying it's flat.
Right.
Still.
So the final experiment, in my opinion, definitively proved a spherical Earth. It really did, because you cannot have a 24-hour sun
the
in
math
Antarctica
doesn't work
on a flat Earth.
From someone who I like math, whatnot, because it you can't manipulate it, you can't fake it or tweak it or whatever. The numbers for that prove that it's a globe.
Right.
You just can't deny what's a fact.
Right. I mean, every single prediction that the Glovers said was going to happen happened almost exactly. They might have been off an inch or two here or there, right? Just because of it's not exact,
right?
Because they're not.
They weren't physically there in the first place,
right? And it's not like they're taking super sensitive equipment down with them. I mean, they're measuring with tape measures. You can't do that. Right.
And wooded folded ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So the final experiment absolutely destroyed flat Earth.
It did, and I think that's why they're panicking, honestly.
It is.
That is why they're panicking.
Now, the next question is, why am I so interested in flat Earth lately?
Well, we all don't. I know why you were so interested in flat Earth, and which that's why it actually started sparking your thing when you started. One saw that, and then you going to Antarctica yourself personally before you even really started getting so much into the flat Earth like we are now.
Well, I mean, back when we did the show
you looked at it, but
I think we touched it once, maybe twice in the entire time.
not like we do now.
We talked about flat Earth from a religious perspective, how most super religious literalists believed in a flat Earth, right? Because it says so in the Bible. But that's really as far as we went.
Yeah, we weren't. Yeah, and it was since Antarctica that you much more tuned into it.
Yeah, I don't know how I started watching.
Yeah, I think it was kind of accidental. Came upon one or something,
just like,
and then started watching another after another.
Right. I started with like Simon Dan.
Yeah,
I remember watching Simon Dan a lot while I was in Antarctica.
Oh,
right.
Okay, yeah. That's right. Because I started watching it when you were telling me about it.
And then it got into like Creaky Blinder and MC Toon and Dave McKeegan and all these others that I watch now. And it just sparked my curiosity. I'm like, how do these people believe this?
Right.
How is this possible? I mean,
and they full on do. But I guess for most people who have never been to Antarctica, can't even contemplate going to Antarctica, and for you being there for 4 years, it's a big difference from your point of view versus someone who will never ever get that chance at all.
Which I wanted to take this show because we seem to be doing theme shows lately.
I know. I don't know what that is, but
I never did it. Well, I kind of did it before, but not in quite the way that we're doing now.
I know. I don't know what that is.
It may
but
just be.
We'll see how that goes. We'll just roll with the flow.
I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about our experiences with Antarctica, not just mine, but yours as well, of how you experienced it back here.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. So I guess for my thing, one thing I remember when you were there. Because his first season, his first tour is what I called them. They're like military tours.
Yeah, they are.
They really are. So his first one was only supposed to be for a few months, temporary.
4 months.
4 months. I was going to say 4.
January through April. So it was January 19.
Right, through April.
April of 19.
Right, of 2019. I thought you were saying January 19th, not 2029 or 2019.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it was only supposed to be temporary. And I'm like, okay, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. And then he would sign up for another season and another season and another season. I'm like, okay. And he wound up being there for 13 months straight, which also is the limit you can stay before you have to leave and then come back.
1 month shy.
1 month shy. 14 months is the limit.
I wasn't about to stay another month.
I couldn't handle it. But you can only stay 14 months, then you have to go away for a while, and then you can come back.
Right.
I think that's also for
you
your
have to go away
sanity.
for 6 weeks.
Is it 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
I was thinking it was more for your sanity than anything.
It is.
Is it?
It's a bit of no permanent residence, and you cannot.
Okay. Yeah.
I knew guys that during COVID spent 2 full years there.
Wow. How'd they do that?
They made COVID exceptions.
That's what I was going to say. Right? It's a COVID
and
exception.
They were good
thing.
people. They were good workers, and they were good people. But that screwed them up so bad.
Did it?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I mean, it's
a lot.
So in order to be in Antarctica and survive. You kind of have to be a little off anyway,
Yes,
right?
I
You
could
have
see
to
that.
be different from your average person.
I don't know if that's how it is for you, but for me, I would see it that you need to be okay with solitude.
Yes.
You're comfortable on your own with
Right.
yourself, with not having things or people or things like that around you
Right.
ever to access, and
Right.
knowing the knowledge that you cannot get that even if you're in a mood, it's not going to happen, and
Yeah.
you have to be comfortable with handling
Right.
that.
And winters, entirely different
Yeah, it's The
concept.
Shining.
Not only do you have to be okay with solitude, you have to be okay with not being able to leave.
The building, the station,
The island.
of the island.
Yeah.
Now, okay, as someone who lived in Hawaii, that is one thing I can relate to, because I got what I call geographic claustrophobia.
Right.
I would think I would have that there if we went in
No,
winter.
Now, in Hawaii, you could just get on
Oh
a
yeah,
plane
of course I
and
could,
leave.
which makes it even worse.
In July, in Antarctica,
Nothing.
you are not getting on a plane and leaving.
And there's no plane coming for you,
No, there's
is the
not.
other difference.
Unless you break your leg.
And that really messes with your mind to know something like
Right.
that. I could,
And even if you have a medical emergency, it's days away.
I just think of The Shining. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That was my first horror movie ever, if you want to call it horror. But it's remote. And of course, The Shining is nothing like
Right.
being stuck on
Yeah.
Antarctica. But anyways, we're getting so
Yeah.
off topic.
But like I said, you have to have a different mindset to even survive down there.
Even in
Even in the summer.
their
right?
summer.
Right. Even in the summer down there, when there's a lot of people.
A lot meaning like 1,000. That's
Thousand
a
is a
lot,
lot of people.
for Antarctica.
1,000 is way too many.
Yeah, okay, from your wife's point of view, I do remember after his first long tour being, the spring, the winter and all that, or I guess that's your fall and your winter. You did not like when it was time for the summer people to
Right.
show up. It was so much to have so many people around you,
Right.
and yet it's only 1,000 people total, but
Well,
you were having a hard time with that.
So I went from, the last plane left in March.
Yeah.
Right. And we had, maybe it was April, we had 138 people on station from that last plane.
So for winter, you have
until
just
right.
Uh-huh.
We have just that.
Right.
And the first plane that brought new people,
Right.
actual new people,
right.
was August 28th or something like that.
So you go all those months with just 100 people on the entire station.
Right. And 138 of the same people.
True.
And it's
Good
not
point.
like there's people switching in and out.
That's
There
it.
was one plane in the middle, like around, I think it came in on July 4th.
Wow, really?
Well, we were supposed to, it's called midwinter flight.
Oh,
And they
okay.
bring mail and freshies, and they switch a couple people out.
And by freshies, he means fresh food.
Fresh food. Generally
Well,
greens,
as fresh as you can.
greens and
Yeah.
fruits.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So that's fresh food.
Oh, and by the way, just FYI, he's not like a give me a salad kind of guy, like at all. But when he was down there, when they would bring that mid-season, he's like, oh my God, thank you.
Well, parts of my body did not thank you.
We don't need to go there. Get back on topic.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
Anyways.
Which, if you want to go to Antarctica, keep that in mind.
Yes.
But anyways, go.
So during the midwinter flight, we exchanged people. So we basically had a 1-to-1.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like 10 people came in, 10 people left.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
So we
someone
still had
who's-
138.
Right. Always 138. Probably, I would imagine people who are like, okay, I can't do this. I need
Yeah, there
out.
were a couple of those, right?
Yeah.
There was one guy who had a death in family. He had to leave,
Oh, well,
right?
that sucks.
Which sucks because he was going to make the funeral, and then the plane got delayed.
Oh,
Another
no.
thing you have to deal with there is do not rely on the planes.
No. Oh my God. The delaying he had so many times. It was really hard for someone waiting for someone to come home
Right.
to know that, oh my God, are you kidding?
Yeah. It became so frustrating, but that's off topic. We'll talk about that here in a minute. So the 138 people, but one of the things that winter in Antarctica can do for you is show you who you really are, because you have to be who you really are down there. You can't.
You have to know yourself.
You learn, because I kind of knew who I was, but when I got down there by myself, I
Yeah.
have to rely on myself for everything.
Yeah.
I kind of find out some of the stuff that I thought I might have liked, I actually did really enjoy.
Oh, that's interesting.
So karaoke. That was called karaoke.
Yeah.
I have never
No.
been
Ever.
the karaoke. I've been public speaker. I've been
And
being
even
up in
that-
front of people was
And you were uncomfortable. You did it, but you were somewhat uncomfortable with
right,
that. So
right, and I was okay with it.
uh-huh.
But I was like, I'm never going to get up and sing in front of people because I know my singing voice.
It's
Right. I know all the words
lovely.
to all the songs.
It's
right?
lovely.
It is lovely. Right. I know all the words.
Yes.
And if I don't know the words, I know the tune well enough to where if I saw the words, I could sing it.
Right.
Right. And I was like, nah, karaoke sounds stupid. And then one of my friends down there, Andy, he was like, you have to come to karaoke. It's so much fun. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to do karaoke. That's insane. And I went one night. I was like, okay, fine. I'll go. And I was sitting in the audience and I'm watching like all because there are 130 of us, right? And like 12 people get up and sing, right? And for a 3-hour karaoke set.
Oh, that's a lot of singing.
Right? So it's like they get 3 or 4 songs a piece.
Right, yeah.
Right? I'm like, that sounds interesting. And I'm sitting there watching. They're having all kinds of fun. I'm enjoying it. And, I don't drink much, but I'm having like a cider or something. Right? And I'm like, seems really fun. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it next time. Right? And I had no idea what I was going to do. Actually, I didn't say I was going to try it next time. I said I would consider it. And I went to the next karaoke, which is 2 weeks away. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Guess what my first song was?
No, I don't remember.
It was Rapture by Blondie.
Now that does not surprise me at all.
One,
That's a tough one too.
I can do the entire rap perfectly. Right? I knew I could do the entire rap.
Well, I already knew that.
I knew all the words.
And
I knew the tune so well that I could do it. I could probably do it without music. Right? And that's what I started with. And people are like, what? Because I was not seen as like this.
I would imagine they see you as like this quiet, professional look.
That's what down there I had 2 personas.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I have 2 personas normally, but I have a work persona.
Right. Professional.
Right. I'm professional, trustworthy. I don't mess around. We get stuff done
to the
book, and we move on,
to the letter.
Right?
Yeah.
And then for the longest time, that was my personal persona down there as well, because I didn't know. I couldn't.
You weren't comfortable yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I did karaoke, that changed.
That's weird.
My personal persona became it became an entertainer of sorts. Right.
Which we'll get more into that.
Right. And I'd already been doing a little bit of entertaining down there. They have a radio station, so I was DJing at the radio station.
Oh, you were doing that,
right?
Okay.
And I had the Saturday Night Hot Mix,
right?
Which I played dance music for 2 hours on Saturday night,
right? I remember
that. And I did it from 7 to 9, or from 8 to 10, so that people could listen to it while they're getting ready to go out and party.
Oh, okay.
Right, that was the whole deal. Give them something to listen to.
Right.
And then, but that's a whole different thing. But the karaoke changed the way I look at myself.
That's interesting.
Right? It brought me out of this little shell that I had. Right, that I didn't want anybody looking at me and noticing me. Weirdly enough, for a guy that ran a podcast for years and did public speaking and did all this other stuff, right?
Right.
Those were very limited.
You always have liked the background,
right? And it put me front and center. I'm like, oh, and then I did Blondie. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is the best thing ever, right?
Okay.
Because you get that applause, right? You get the applause, and you never had that even with public speaking. It's just because it was like. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get the regular
but in
for
karaoke,
public speaking.
you're like, woo!
Well, right? And they're partially drunk.
They're partially drunk. True. So that started my karaoke.
Yeah, because you did for the rest of the 4-year tours that you did, you were always karaoke. Well, and you got even more involved in it.
Well, throughout the winter, I just did karaoke.
Right. That was your first. Yeah, it was your first year.
And the guy that ran karaoke, he only did winters. I was staying over for the summer.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, who's going to do karaoke when you leave? Because I didn't want to give it up, right?
Right.
And he was like, I don't have anybody lined up. I said, I'll do it. I know how to run sound equipment. I know how to do this. I know how to do that.
Right.
And he's like, okay, here's all my karaoke stuff.
Oh.
Right. He gave me all his songs and everything that he leaves down there every year anyway.
Right.
Because he's like a career guy. He's been there 20 years doing it. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I learned how to do karaoke.
Yeah.
Right. And that got me into the sound system. Right. And because I had access to the sound system, came the next stage in what I was doing. Right. And this was at Windfly, because he left at Windfly and I took over.
You need to explain Windfly.
Okay. Windfly is it's actually originally called Winter Flight, because originally the only winter flight came in August.
Oh, okay.
Right. That was the first flight, and it's Windfly because it's the first flight after winter.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
And so Windfly is when you get like 100 more people come in and a bunch of winter people leave.
Right.
So we were like 300-400. that
Right.
would fly.
Okay.
So, and I had access to the sound booth in the bar,
Uh-huh.
right? And I was up there doing something, or I'd come in for some reason, and I was doing something up there, and someone handed me an iPod
Uh-huh.
and said, "Hey, can you turn on the sound system and play music off my iPod? We want to have a dance party." I'm like, okay, sure, right? Never thought about it before. I was like, yeah, kind of cool. And then I was like, well, that's not a good song. I'll skip that one.
Oh.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And Ed played a few songs. He had a pretty good playlist. It wasn't bad, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
And then it's like, oh, that song sucks. I'll skip that one. And people were liking it because they didn't have to listen through the crap,
Right.
the non-dance music.
Right. Got it.
And then I was like, I have better music than this on my computer.
Uh-huh.
So I pulled out my computer, hooked it up
at this party.
at this party.
Oh, okay.
Right. I pulled out my computer, hooked it up, set up a playlist, and I just started playing my playlist.
Uh-huh.
Right. They didn't know this difference. They were mostly drunk anyway. And I was like, this is fun.
So that's when you started the
That's
whole
when I
want to
started.
do DJ.
And that's
thing.
like, okay, people need dance party music.
Uh-huh.
Right. Are even doing the
radio show.
which is all dance party music.
Right.
But it was all like, that was all 80s, 90s,
Well, and it was
2000s. This is
their
what I had,
stuff, wasn't
what
it?
I had available. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so I started playing my music, which is a little bit hard, a little more house, a little more techno, right?
EDM, right?
The EDM music, right?
Yeah.
And so that changed my perspective again.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, now not only can I have fun, I can facilitate others having fun.
Right. You could actually, I remember when you would DJ, you kind of manipulate how the night will go.
Right.
You
And
know,
that's the whole point of being a DJ.
right. A good
So,
DJ
at that
knows
point,
what to play when
I
and
started
how
watching.
to get things going.
I started watching videos on how to DJ.
Oh, uh-huh.
Right, and I downloaded software, actual professional DJ software,
Uh-huh.
and I started mixing.
Uh-huh.
And then I got to be like the premier DJ in McMurdo.
Right.
I wasn't the only DJ, don't get me wrong,
Oh, yeah.
but I
uh-huh.
became the one that people wanted in their parties.
Now, on another note, one thing I do remember is when you were DJing at this time, you had been going for a few tours. When you would get up and do karaoke, you would do a song, and they would be like, "Holy shit, did he just do that?"
Oh yeah,
What was it? There was one that they were like floored. You did that song.
Baby Got Back.
I was gonna say it's "Baby Got Back," right? And they were like, "Holy crap, this old looking gray guy just did Baby Has Back up on stage."
Yeah. So a weird story about that. So there was Steve. I won't give his last name, but Steve. He exclusively did rap.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And he was about to go out for a smoke
Oh,
when it came up that I was doing Baby Got Back. And he was like, wait a minute, I'm hanging around.
I gotta watch this.
And it was amazing because he actually said that was great.
Oh, cool.
So, but he exclusively did rap. In fact, the first one I saw him do was Summertime.
Oh, uh-huh.
DJ.
Yeah.
DJ Jazzy, Fresh Prince, right?
I was gonna say DJ
And
Jazzy Jeff.
I was in the audience and I was mouthing the words with him.
Oh,
He was
uh-huh.
like, I see you having fun. Yeah, that was
But
like my first
anyways,
one.
I think we're going a little
Yeah, we
too
are.
on a DJ thing.
Yeah, so that started my DJ career,
Uh-huh.
right? And from then on, I was the DJ guy, right? I even had a turntable sent down,
Oh,
Right,
yeah, I
like,
remember that.
right? I had everything.
Uh,
I did Christmas party, I did Halloween parties.
yeah, and you were in charge of a lot of stuff that McMurdo, the station on Antarctica, runs on an annual basis.
Right. So this all happened during COVID.
Which was a very difficult time
It
to be
was.
in Antarctica.
So, and what happened was they had people who normally do those jobs. Like those are like 3 or 4 different. So they have part-time jobs.
Uh-huh.
People have their regular job that they're hired to do.
Right.
Right. And then you can get a part-time job working
Doing
recreation.
these things.
Right.
Right.
Handling sound system, doing the band room, doing the karaoke stuff. That's
Right.
all part-time jobs.
Right.
Well, during COVID, there was no one else to do it.
Oh.
And me being me, it's like,
I'll do it.
I'll do it because it needs to get done.
Uh-huh.
I kind of know how to do it. I'll figure it out as I go.
Right.
And that's kind of what I did. So I ended up being the sound setup guy too.
Right.
I'd already known speakers and stuff from doing the podcast
Right.
and audio equipment. So I ended up managing McMurdo Station's entire sound system.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
But I think we need to get back on the point
Yes.
about Antarctica.
Right.
And that was about how it changed you as a person and
Right.
who you need to be and learn who you are and
Right.
know what you can handle and can't. And you'll learn things that you didn't know you could or
Right.
couldn't.
And that's how people cope in Antarctica, by the way.
Oh, yeah. The
They-
outside curricular stuff is how you are able to to release that stress that you're starting to feel, I would imagine.
Yes. Doing the outside stuff. Like my first summer, I didn't do a whole lot besides what I'd already determined I was going to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then second summer, I just
Went wild.
blossomed, right?
Yeah. But you had been there 13 months for your first tour, you know.
Well, I wasn't a disgruntled winter over at the time.
Yeah.
Because the winter can knock you down.
Well, I was going to say, so when it is summer there, it is winter here, obviously, aka holidays, which also entails him being gone not only for our holidays, the birth of our first grandchild you missed.
I was here for that.
No, you weren't.
She was born in June.
Or
May.
Fine, whatever. COVID kept us out. Anyways, but also you missed their first holidays. You missed several of our anniversaries because it's the winter solstice for our anniversary. Right. So it makes holidays really rough.
It makes it really hard.
Especially from the wife's point of view or the outsider's point of view, the significant other. Several times I would hear you, you talk or whatever. You're at a party. You're DJing. You're doing this. You're having shit tons of fun. And I'm stuck here with all our kids or doing whatever. And it's holiday and you're not here. So from that point of view, the significant other has to be able to handle Antarctica.
Right.
So from that point of view, that sucks too.
Yeah. Which is why I wanted you to come down.
I know.
It just didn't happen.
But we were going to actually after he finished his last tour and was going to go back the next go around, I was going to be going with him for the next go around, and that didn't happen
for either of us.
Well, it's kind of good now for me apparently, but so circumstances didn't allow it to happen, and I'm honestly kind of thinking, as much as it would be so awesome to go and see that for yourself in person, I'm not sure how mentally I would handle it. And no, I know it's not their winter, it's their summer, but at the same time, I'm not sure how I could handle. Or how I would handle it, I should say. You get the novelty at first, but then after that is when the mental stuff, I would imagine, would start sinking in.
Yeah, actually, that happened a lot. People would come down, and within the first couple of weeks, they realize it's not for them.
Yeah.
And they'd go home.
Which
is good.
I almost could sort of see, I would have you, so that would have helped me a lot.
Yeah.
But I could see for myself knowing a little here and there about, I'm not sure, because you are, even in summer, their summer down there, you're isolated. Mm-hmm. And you're completely, there's no trees. I remember you telling me there's no smells.
No.
And there's no color. And I love color. I love nature. I'm a kind of a weirdo.
You get two colors down there, brown and white.
Brown and white. So that would have really depressed the shit out of me.
Yep. There's no smells.
Which is weird.
I mean,
you can't count the smelly people.
Right. There's human smells.
But there's no natural smells. Right. Yeah.
One of the best things to do was go up to the carpentry shop.
Oh.
Because they were cutting wood.
I know, the smell of wood. Well, and I remember you would say, like, playing rain sound sometimes helps because you don't hear those. There's no natural sounds like that.
There's wind.
You get the winter
lots of wind
sounds. Yeah. And actually on that note with the wind, I remember the one thing that interests me was all your Con 1, Con 2, Con 3, which you need to explain and how those work and the protocol with that. Because I thought those were really interesting.
Okay, so obviously there's weather down there, right?
And then
there's condition 1, condition 2, condition 3. So let me make sure I got this right because it's been a couple years. Condition 3 is weather's good.
Oh, okay. See, I have it always asked backwards.
Right. So condition 3, Con 3, is weather's good. You can see unlimited visibility, right?
Oh, okay.
Probably it might be cloudy. Normal
days,
weather, right?
Normal days, yeah.
Right. Normal weather here where we live.
Right. We are in Montana, so you can take a guess. Snow.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
And there's no travel restrictions at all.
Right.
Right.
And by travel, your fastest speed limit, aka, is 25.
25, and that's out on the ice field.
Yeah, not in town.
Not in town. It's 5.
Okay. Anyways. Continue.
Okay. So Con 2. This is when visibility gets down to a quarter mile or less.
Okay.
Right. Or it's windy.
Uh-huh.
So you're looking at like 50 knots. Which
what the hell
it's
is
like
a
60
knot?
miles. It's 40. I forgot, but everything was in knots down there.
Oh, I'm sure it was because we still do the stupid way.
It was roughly 50-ish miles an hour.
Okay, that helps
but
me
not
better.
quite. It was close.
Okay, that helps me
so
much
50
better.
knots. Or it was downright cold.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So three different
so
scenarios.
Any of those three.
Okay.
So right, if it was like below negative 30 or something, depending on a couple other factors.
Right. Uh-huh.
Then there's Con 1. Well, travel restrictions, Con 2. Essential travel only.
We're still on con 2?
We're still in con 2. I'm
Okay.
going to talk about travel restrictions. All right. Go everywhere with a buddy.
You have to go everywhere with a buddy?
Yep.
Really?
Well, just in case.
No, I get that, but
Right,
it's
because
that
your
bad.
visibility is coming down. It's from a quarter mile to 100 feet.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right.
Ouch. Uh-huh.
Anyways,
Uh-huh.
and then be ready for con 1.
Okay.
Right. I think that's all it was con 2. It's been a while.
Okay, and then what happens with con 1?
So con 1 is when visibility is less than 100 feet. So you can't see 100 foot in front of you.
Okay.
The wind is like 75 knots.
Okay.
Like you can barely
Wait,
stand
knots?
up. Knots. It's
So
way up in the miles per hour. Right.
okay.
Right. And it's like -50.
Uh-huh.
Right. I don't know the exact numbers because it's been so long since I looked at it, but those are the
Right.
basics
I
of it.
remember
It was visibility, wind, and temperature.
and I remember when you did your winter over that you hit con 1 several times, and I remember one of the things I thought was so weird is you have to, I guess you could call it shelter in place.
Right. So get to travel restrictions on con 1.
Okay.
No driving.
Mhm.
Right. Actually, no driving
At all.
at all.
Uh-huh.
You cannot drive in con 1. It's
Uh-huh.
just not going to happen.
Even though you're crawling, you're still not allowed.
I got a video of that on my YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A close to con 1.
While you were in your truck.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just trying to travel like 1,000 feet, and it took me 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
that's
so
crazy.
no travel.
Uh-huh.
Well, no travel at all. You batten down.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, if it's safe,
You stay.
wherever you are, you stay.
Yeah, I was
If
gonna
it's
say.
not safe, there's usually a phone in that building.
Oh, and you
right?
have to call
you
someone?
call and they will come get you.
Wow, really?
Right? You do not travel. You stay inside.
And if I remember, there was like you had a rope from one building to
Yes,
another
so
for con 1s.
When they thought con 1 was coming, they have the safety ropes that they put up between buildings.
because it's that bad.
It's that bad. You can't see.
Well, and in retrospect, I also remember it's complete darkness 24/7.
Right.
Mostly.
Well, even during
And
most of our con 1s.
would you get those in summertime there?
It could happen, yes.
Especially like I would imagine when the seasons change.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Most of our con 1s in my winter over was during wind fly.
Yeah, when
So
you're
it was after
changing
the
seasons.
sun had started coming up.
Right, because when the sun comes up, you're changing the pressure
Right.
and the temperature, and that's when you get your storms
Right. So
better.
you can see,
Right,
right? There's
because there's light.
but you can't see because your visibility is like 10 feet.
Right, so I would imagine too that wind blowing up all the snow,
And that's what it's from.
blinding
It's
you.
usually from the wind blowing up all the snow. That's
Yeah.
when con 1 got really in there. Or there's a storm coming in.
Oh, and on a fun note, you guys have to bring buckets with you.
Oh, yeah.
I remember
in
that.
Antarctica, you can't leave anything behind. That includes human waste.
Including when you're stuck in a building and not allowed to leave. Oh, I remember even when there was no cons, certain buildings didn't have certain things.
Oh, my office didn't have a bathroom.
Right, and you had to go.
I had to go to next door to use the bathroom.
Right, and if there was weather that made you not be able to leave or whatever, you have to stay with the bucket.
I had pee bottles.
Pee bottles, that's right.
Everybody had a pee bottle. I had one in my backpack, carried it with me all the time.
Did you really?
All the time. You always had a pee bottle with you.
Well, and when you're not in station and say you're driving out,
Mhm.
you kind of
can't-
don't
you
have a
can't just stop on
bathroom.
the side of the road.
Right.
Right?
It's just wide open nothingness.
And like when we were setting up the airfield, bathrooms weren't up yet.
Right, because you also did the air, because electrician, you did the airfield,
Right.
and you were always over there
Right.
working there.
Right. And there were no bathrooms.
Right.
There's no bathrooms available at the runway.
Runway.
Your closest bathroom is at the terminal,
Uh-huh.
right, which is like a mile away.
Yeah, so
So no.
there's, and because of the rules of Antarctica, no human waste can be left on, I was going to call it an island. It's not really
Actually,
an island.
nothing.
Not even for the station itself. They have to
Everything
ship
gets
all
shipped
that
up.
out.
You're not even really allowed to spill food.
Anything. Yeah,
right?
you cannot contaminate whatsoever the essentially Antarctica continent,
Right.
period.
Yeah.
And I do remember from a kicks and giggles kind of point of view for someone who's not there, they have rules also with the wildlife. You are not
Oh,
allowed
not allowed
to
to-
interfere
not
in
allowed.
any shape or form.
Right. You can if your action causes them to take a reaction, you have just interfered with them.
Right. And so he, working on the runway, would have these things where you would have the penguins, emperor penguins, little
Emperor penguins,
3-foot tall
yeah.
children.
Yeah.
And they would be standing there, and there's not a damn thing you can
Nope.
do about it. You just sit there and you have to wait
The longest traffic jam in Antarctica was
from
from a penguin.
penguins.
Yep, there were 3 or 4 of us on the road waiting for the penguins to move.
That's silly. That's like the moose we had to wait for
I
the
know.
other day on the road.
I know.
And I remember, and if it's taking too long, you could call it in, but it would take forever to get approval
Right.
to do something.
Yeah, I remember hearing about a plane that had to circle for like an hour and a half.
They wouldn't get off the runway.
There was a penguin on the runway.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's great, but it's still crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to keep that as pristine as absolutely possible because no government owns any part of it.
Right.
And so it needs to stay pristine. And yet we still need to do, the scientific researches that go on down there and, everything that happens, but yet keep it untouched at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's probably a pretty big balancing act, I would imagine.
Yep.
But honestly, there's so many more things about Antarctica that we could definitely talk about. But as I can see is, holy crap, we've already hit an hour.
Yeah.
And we could do like an entire another show on just actually having you talk about Antarctica and less about the whole karaoke DJ thing we got stuck on.
That was a big life change for
I
me.
know that was a really big thing, and it really did make a huge difference.
Yeah.
But there's so much more about Antarctica too that I think we need to touch on at some point.
Well, if you are interested in some of the stuff I did while in Antarctica, you can check out my YouTube channel, Sparky on Ice. I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
And that covers a lot more. I did get a little bit less regular on my posting for that, especially during that first summer.
Yeah.
Just because I was a grumpy winter over and I just didn't feel like doing it.
And it was also your first kind of going. I honestly, I don't know if people want to hear it or not. I think we should do a part 2 because there's still a lot of information on the actual ins and outs of living in Antarctica from your point of view and what it was like, and from the significant others who's stuck wherever they're at while the other person is in Antarctica. Right. There's a lot that it's more than you would assume it would be, and you just don't think about it until you have to deal with it, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So maybe a shorter, okay, absolutely a shorter part 2.
I could talk for hours about what happened down there.
But I yes, you absolutely can. But I think from like an informational standpoint of what it's like, because we didn't touch into that as much as I was planning on.
Yeah, because
what it's like to actually be in Antarctica.
What it was like to actually be there.
No, I know, I get that, but that was such like a different part of like just what it's like, what it looks like, what it's like to the thing like you went on a helicopter while you were there. You did snowmobiling while you were there. You did other things that you got to be involved with, the space station thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. There was a lot of cool stuff that you got to be involved in that we kind of didn't get to touch on. So I kind of think we should do a part 2.
All right, maybe we'll do a part 2. But the most important question based on today's episode was, did I see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica?
Oh, yeah. See, totally forgot about that.
100% yes. And I can verify it was a 24-hour sun because there was one day we had power issues. I had to stay up for a full 24 hours.
Oh, so you really, even more
absolutely 24 hours.
Personally stayed for 24 hours.
And that was around Thanksgiving.
And I do remember you constantly had to put cardboard up in your windows all the time to get any sleep.
Yep.
I remember you telling me that.
Up until like 6 months ago, I always had sunglasses on my head. Always.
Oh, yeah. You still drive me nuts. It's like, it's cloudy. Why are you wearing sunglasses?
24-hour sun.
It drives me crazy.
I spent 4 years.
You have toned it down. I will say that, but you're wearing sunglasses, and like today, it's snowing. There's no sun. It's solid ceiling of cloud.
Still hurts my eyes.
And you still wear sunglasses. It's weird. Me, no. Now, if there was snow on the ground and the sun was out, yeah, sure, totally.
4 years of never leaving a room without sunglasses. I'll do that to you.
It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that when it's cloudy, you're still wearing them, but that's a whole nother tangent.
All right.
But I think we need to call it because, my goodness, this is longer than we've normally gone. But I do recommend we should, whether they want to hear it or not. I want to do it anyways.
Well, if you do want to hear it,
a small part 2.
Maybe a long part 2.
All right. Not a super long, but not a teeny either.
All right.
Because there's a lot to be said and
we'll
learned.
plan that like maybe next month or so.
Or should we continue for the next episode?
I don't know.
We'll play with it because we're already here. It would kind of make sense in my opinion. But
all right, fine.
If anyone has opinions, feel free to comment. But in the meantime, I think we have so yacked enough as it is.
Yeah, I agree.
That's enough yakking for today.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Next week.
We always like to hear your feedback or an email at podcast@secularyakking.com.
More input.
All comments are welcome. We like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
If you like our show, head over to your podcast directory of choice and leave us a 5-star review. If you really like the show, support the show on our Patreon page.
I'd buy that for $1.
And we'll be back next week with more yakking to please your eardrums.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Goodbye.